Hello everyone, this is Tom Dove from the Ashby Chess Club. I want to take you through a game that was played last night. Ashby versus Syston, board 2, Brian Galligan. He was playing white and I was playing black. Unfortunately Ashby lost the match, but I won a nice little game, about 25-26 moves long. Very exciting. Playing a system I have never played before. I've never played it online, I've never played it over the board, just something I thought I'd give it a whirl to see how it panned out, and I was very pleased with the results. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. It was a very enjoyable game all the way through, quite instructive as well. Okay, so Brian started out with D4 and I responded with D5 standard, and Brian played this very common non-committal move. He can still go into various systems. He could go into a Cole system if he wanted, or he could go into a Queen's Gambit. He could play like a London system if he wanted to. Plenty of options open to him. I played an equally non-committal move. This allows me to play all sorts of systems myself. But Brian was a bit more committal with his next move, C4. He's going into like a Queen's Gambit, and I went into Queen's Gambit declined with E6. I wanted to experiment with this Semi-Slav. Now, a lot of people would go into the Semi-Slav with C6 instead. This move here. Let's think. This move instead, the C6 move instead. Now, the reason why I didn't particularly want to get into this line is just in case Brian took on here. I took, and now with this knight here, in some systems I might be forced to play this move here. Now all my pieces now are pointing towards the queen side, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it just doesn't suit my style. I don't think I like to have a bit more of a kingside attack threat going on. So the way I played it allowed me, if I played this move here, if he took here, the difference is when I take and he goes here, I'm able to play C6, and now my bishop can come out here. It's a completely different vibe really. Everything's pointing towards the king side as opposed to the queen side. So just a subtle move order, but quite important, I think. So he played knight C3 instead of taking, and I was able to just bolster my centre pawn here with C6. So now it's looking much more like a Semi-Slav system, and Brian played E3. He could have perhaps gone into this type of system, which might have tried to encourage a Cambridge Springs defence, which is another video really. E3 then was played. I connected my knights. There's no weaknesses here at all. It's a really very nice position. This dark squared bishop's looking very good. The only trouble is this bishop here is buried, and it's quite a peculiar thing about this Semi-Slav. It's called the Meran variation, I think. But the whole point of it is to develop this bishop, which looks to have absolutely no future at all at the minute. But just see how quickly it gets developed to this a really nice square on here, and how it bears down on this king side. It's quite extraordinary really how quickly that happens, and we do that with getting tempo against white's pieces. So Brian developed his bishop here, and so the first tempo we gain against the bishop is to take, and Brian takes back, and we hit out with B5, and already we've got this this square available to us with time against this bishop. The bishop normally would move back here, I think that's the main line, but Brian chose to just retreat his bishop to b3, and I am able to now get my bishop on that square, and all I need to do now is move my pawn to c5, and I've got this lovely diagonal. I can't do it straight away because if I do, this pawn is hanging, so I need to do something about that. Brian castled here, and I started to chase these two pieces away, starting with a5. Brian put a stop to it. This charge is going here. Put a stop to it with this move here, a4. I'm not convinced by this move, I've got to be honest. I don't know whether this would have been a better move. I don't know. Maybe it is the best choice. I haven't really studied it that deeply. But he thought about it long and hard, and came up with that move. And he's a very good player. 186, 189, something like that. So you know, you've got to respect that decision. And I was just able to bypass that pawn and attack this knight. He retreated his knight, and this allowed, there's absolutely no reason why I can't now play c5, which I did. And already, this, as you see, this bishop is tearing down the board already, and there's a big threat of this bishop coming here to another good diagonal. Brian didn't really want that, I don't think, and moved his knight, hoping to get it to a better square. But here, I think this move pretty much insists on him taking that pawn. I don't think Brian really wants this kind of move happening. So he took, and I took back with my bishop, and now I've got just I think quite beautiful development of my bishops. I've got nice development of my knights. My queen can come to quite a few squares, and I've still got castling available to me. So development has been a very, very easy task for me. It's just very easy to see why this system is so favoured at the top level. It is just very, very sound. There's no weaknesses, and the development is very, very easy, especially in, I think, this line with this bishop here. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced by that bishop. Anyway, so the knight came in here, seeking a better square, possibly this one here. It couldn't, I don't know exactly where it's headed. So I just castled. I can't see any particular danger from that knight, so I just castled. And Brian moved his queen to e2, making room for his rook to come to this file and dominate this file with my queen on it. I don't want my queen to be sitting there waiting for that to happen, so I moved her to a nice attacking square. This is a very aggressive square, and Brian protected his knight there with his rook. And when you have a rook on this file, I mean, it is an open file. Just because there's a couple of knights on it, it is an open file. It's a very good idea to try and contest that. So we're sharing the power on this file. And Brian moved his knight to this square here. It's going to be very difficult to dislodge that knight, but I don't know. I'm not entirely sure if it's doing all that much. I suppose it's pinning this bishop down to this square here. I think that's really what it's doing. This bishop is governing some very important defensive squares. Perhaps this and this could maybe happen at some point, but at the moment that bishop's doing a very, very good job. I'm not all that concerned, so I'm able just to move my knight into the attack. I've got, just as I said, I've just got some lovely attacking pieces here, and it's time to make good use of them. So Brian moved his bishop there. Now this bishop, I can see why he moved his bishop, because it's just getting in the way of the communication between these two rooks, and he wants his rook to come out. This bishop doesn't have much of a future, especially with this bishop blocking that pawn there, which is another reason why I don't like that bishop there. Besides the fact that it's biting down on these two pawns, it doesn't seem to be much of a future on that diagonal. But moving his bishop there, whilst natural, I think that is probably the losing move here, because this square here, where the knight can jump into, it's just a disaster for him. So I've got my eye on that square, but first of all what I want to do is just make a direct threat of checkmate. And it's not that I think he's going to fall for it, but I'm hoping to provoke a weakness in his position with this move f3, which indeed it did. And now you'll see the point of it is that this pawn here is pinned against the king. It can't move, so squares around that pawn are suddenly becoming much more vulnerable than they were, and I'm able to take advantage of that with this knight move here, threatening to take this pawn here. And Brian completely overlooked the fact, he said so afterwards, he completely overlooked the fact that this pawn couldn't move when he moved his bishop to that square, thinking he'd protected that pawn. But of course the lightning's going to strike in a completely different direction with that move there, attacking his queen. Now if his queen just moved to, I don't know, trying to protect that pawn, then something along these lines could happen. A knight coming in there, he'd maybe take it, and then this bishop taking, and the queen can't take back because of this checkmate threat. So those kind of nasty surprises can happen. So just going back to this position, he took with his rook, I took with my rook, and now he moved his queen to there, just giving up that pawn. The pawn is taken, and he moves to a safe square. I wonder if you can just tell me, or think of a move that you play in this position. Just pause the video. Okay, well, when he moved his king to this safe square, it was safe, or so he thought. I think that's the way I'd put it, because I hope you found this queen move just crashes through his position. He can't take that queen sacrifice because the bishop just comes in here, and it's very quickly checkmate. So he tried to make some kind of escape hatch for his king, but now, I mean, the knight could take that pawn quite happily. The knight could take that pawn. It's like shooting fish in a barrel at this stage. The knight just takes there. It's going to be a very nasty discovered check, so he moves here. The knight just takes this, and it's just awful for white here. He's got not a cat and hell's chance of escaping with anything from this game, and so he resigned in that position. So I hope you enjoyed this. It's I know white certainly didn't, but that's you know, the Semi-Slav, the Meran system. That's the reason why it's played at such a high level. It really does pose some serious questions of white. So there you go. Hopefully I'll be able to bring you another video of another match game, perhaps with another opening. I'll see what I can dig up, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.